Hi friends, how are we? It is Thursday. It is 7 o'clock here on the eastern part of the United States. And this is not our normal Facebook Live time. I realize it is a little bit different than normal. We normally get together at 7 a.m. Eastern time in the mornings on Thursdays. But things are a little bit different this week. Just got a lot of family stuff going on, but I still wanted to be able to get together with you guys and do something fun. And I think you guys are going to like tonight's project. I think this is a fun one. And we're using a couple of my favorite things, so that always makes for a fun project, right? And we're going to revisit a technique that we actually have done this previously, but it's been a while. It's been a long time since we've done this, and it's one that is always a favorite, so it never hurts to go back and work on something, right? It's so good to see you too. Hi, everybody. Hi. I saw a lot of you on Tuesday evening. We had a really good show Tuesday evening, and I would have been together with y'all this morning, but got bumped till tonight, and I think probably for the best, because it gave me a chance to really kind of, scratch my brain a little bit and come up with something fun for you guys. So what are we doing tonight? Tonight, we are using one of my favorite tools. Now, you guys hear me call things favorites all the time. And I realize that because everything is my favorite all the time. I love everything. But when it comes to some Beadalon products, I definitely have a top 5. And my top 5 include the 3D bracelet jig, the tying station, and this pair of pliers. Do you guys remember these? These are the stepped bell making pliers. And I love them. I love them. I love them so much that if you were to ask me what I would recommend as far as tools are concerned, something that might not necessarily be a need, but just a really cool extra to have on hand, it would be these. I use these for absolutely everything. Just because you can make such a wide variety of loop sizes here, and because you can do this really cool little loop project with wire that we're going to do tonight. So this is definitely in my top 5 of favorite tools that ever existed on the planet Earth. Put that down in your notes. Now, close to that, right, probably right in that number 4 spot, is the Pliers set in the purple. So you guys, if you are looking, I'm going to pull these up over on the Jesse James Speeds website real quick, because I want to be sure that there's 5, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I wanted to be sure that you guys know these are the tools that I use all the time. And I realize that the handles on these are a little bit small, but that's particularly why I love these. The shimmer tool kit, they come in purple. There's 5 tools in the kit. You get, you get the cutter tool, the chain nose pliers, the bent chain nose pliers, the round nose pliers, and the flat nose pliers. And they come in a little zipper pouch. I like these because the handle is small. Some of you will not like that because you like that kind of ergonomic, the ones that have the squishy handle. And I totally get that. You can get both over on the Jesse James Speeds website. So if you happen to be in the market for tools, and like right now we're doing back to school, everybody's got school on the brain, and a lot of jewelry classes are picking back up as well. And so because of that, if you're going to make some new jewelry, or you're going to join some new jewelry classes and you're interested in grabbing some tools, if you've got smaller hands, these are the ones that I definitely recommend. And if not, then the ones with, let me show you, these guys with the kind of cushiony handles, these are available over on the Jesse James Speeds website as well. So just be aware that if you are in need of tools, Jesse James Speeds has got you covered. All right, so not only do they have us covered when it comes to tools, but they do have some amazing weekly deals, and they do happen to correlate with our project for today. So one of the first weekly deals that comes up is buy 2, get 1 free on charms and pendants, and the code for that is pendants. And if you've not had a chance to check out the charms and pendants on the website, go do that. Take my word for it. You will be glad that you did, because I know personally firsthand, because I have been shopping with Miss Sara James, and I know that she hand selects from artisans and specialty vendors when it comes to pendants and charms. She doesn't just pick anything, right? And she doesn't just place an order online. Like, she physically touches each one of these products, and she picks out things that she knows is going to work really well with the Jessie James beads, and that is going to not only like reflect the quality, but is just special, right? It's just special. A lot of times there are things in the pendants and charms that you can't find anywhere else. So take advantage of that. Vicky says, I have large arthritis hands. Which one is best? I'm going to say these guys are going to be the best. I do know, even though I prefer these because I have smaller hands, that after using these for like summer camp, that whole week I used these, and you guys know I did a lot of Facebook Lives and a lot of work that week. By the end of the week, my hands were a little stiff, and I know that it has to do with the tools, but I'm okay with that. If you need a little bit more cushion, I definitely recommend these guys. They're really soft and they fit really well. Even for people with small hands, they fit really well in your hands. But as far as a whole kit is concerned, with everything you need, these are good ones. These are really, really good ones. And it's cool because you can zip them up and toss them in your bag. And they make a really good gift too. If you've got a jewelry maker or maybe somebody who's thinking about it, that's a really good gift. All right, so our second weekly deal, also kind of in the back to school kind of mode, is a free book or educational DVD. And the code for that actually is back number 2 school, no spaces. And that's a good one as well. Like, who doesn't want a good book or a DVD that might just happen to have Wyatt White? So yeah, there's that. And then last but not least, there is 20% off multicolor collection, and that happens to correlate, like I said, with what we're doing today. So we are using some of the multicolor wire, and this just so happens to be part of the multicolor collection. So you can get 20% off on the multicolor wire. I'm going to show this to you up close, right? So you guys can see this stuff. We've played with it before, but gosh, I love it. I love it so much. This is probably one of the most excitable I have been over wire in a long time, or the most excited. That was poor grammar there. I apologize. I definitely need to go back to school, right? But when Beadalon released the multicolor wire, I had not been that happy and excited about wire in a very, very long time. This stuff is amazing. It's dead soft. It's because it's artistic wire, so it's very easy to work with, but it's gorgeous. And the things that you can do with it, that kind of tie-dye effect that it has, it's so good. And it works perfectly with all of your favorite Jessie James beads, which makes it even more special, right? So as far as the beads that we're going to be using for tonight, I'm going to be using some beads from one of the glass strands, the Design by Me strands. You guys, oh, so pretty. So pretty. First of all, can we just talk about the facets on those beads? Look at the glass beads. Yes, please. So for those of you who don't know what the Design by Me collection is, it is the collection that is available through a lot of Walmarts, not all Walmarts, but several Walmarts throughout the United States. And if you do not have Walmart, or you can't get these at your Walmart, you can get these all on the Jessie James Beads website. There are strands, there are mixes, and they are so beautiful. So beautiful. Like, look at that, would be beautiful just as a necklace, right? So pretty. So pretty. So these are available on the website, and I heard a rumor from Miss Sara that in the future you're going to be able to get these on Walmart.com as well. So, but for now, you can grab these. If you don't have these at your Walmart, you can grab these on the Jessie James Beads website. Okay, so what are we doing? We're using some of these beads. We're going to use some of the multi-wire or multicolored wire, and we're going to put together some earrings. Some of you have seen the teaser pic. I'll hold one up so that you can take a look at it. And some of you are going to recognize this technique. Some of you are not, and that's okay. I'm going to walk you through it. Looks complicated. It is so not. It's really not complicated at all. Just takes a little bit of practice. And you guys, it looks awesome with the multicolor wire, and it looks good with any Jessie James bead. All right, so enough chit chat. Let's get to it, shall we? I'm excited to get started with this. Really excited to show this to you guys because I feel like this is another one of those things where you can kind of take this and run with it and turn it into your own amazing jewelry pieces. And I love to see what you guys are up to when it comes to playing with wire. Like, you guys are always amazing. So let's take a look at all of the different colors of the multicolor wire that is available. Okay, so this one right here is red, gold, and black, and it absolutely is that. Look how pretty that is. Let me see. I've got this, I coiled up some of this a while ago. I don't know if you guys can tell, but look at how pretty that transition of the color, right? Just in a coil. Like, this is just the wire coiled up. You can do this on your bell making pliers. You can do it on the coiling gizmo. I mean, you know, you can make jump rings out of this wire, and it's just so, so pretty. So there is the red, gold, and black. The one we're using tonight is the silver, black, and green. And it is so, so pretty. If you're a Harry Potter fan, which I am a huge Harry Potter fan, this has Slytherin House written all over it. So pretty. All right, and then there is the pink, black, and green, and yes, I love that. And the green in this one is more of like a teal, and the pink is more like a purple, but it does kind of have that shift, right? So that's definitely why they chose pink and green as the descriptors for this guy. Okay, and this is one of my favorites. It's the red, blue, or the gold, I'm sorry, blue, red, and gold. I love the colors in this one. This one is very Southwestern feeling to me. And I'm just going to throw it if y'all don't mind. I have better fingers tonight. And this is probably my second favorite next to the red, blue, and gold is the brown, green, and gold. I just love the neutrals in this. And they're not neutrals in like a boring way. I mean, look at the transition there. It's like coppery, brown, gold, that kind of brassy, and then it has that pop of green in it. I don't know. There's something about that combination that is just really, really beautiful to me. But I think everybody has a favorite when it comes to the multicolor wire. And then last but not least is the silver, black, and gold. And this one looks classy and elegant with absolutely everything. So stinking pretty. You can use this with your silvers. You can use this with your golds. You can use this with your blacks or your even your antique brass colors. Yeah, love it, love it, love it, love it. So the colors are absolutely amazing. And if you're curious about the sizes, most of the ones that I have in my hand are 18 gauge, but this comes in 3 different sizes. So you can get this in 22 gauge, 20 gauge, and 18 gauge. So you've got 3 sizes to choose from and work with. And I've used up almost all of the 22s that I have and almost all of the 20s. So what I have left is my 18s, which actually doesn't bother me because the 18s you can make all of the really cool components that we've been making. I don't know why I don't grab this stuff. All of the earring components that we make, we can do with the multicolored wire. So just keep that in mind. Falls under the category of the multicolor that is 20% off. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the beads too, just so you can see. These are so, so pretty. And what's cool is that this strand is going to work with the red, it's going to work with the green, and it's going to work with the black. So you could do this exact project with any of those, right? I picked the green just because I really, really love that pop of green in there, but It's going to look good with any of those for sure. All right, so the beads that we're going to be using from our strand tonight, we're going to be using some of these large faceted rounds, which are gorgeous. Let me just show you, right? Look at that. And the sparkle on that, it's like a disco ball. And then one of the faceted rondelles, which is also really beautiful, right? So the glass beads, and you know, like the more I look at this strand and the more I think about the earring, the more I think you could use the galaxy bead, you could use the bubble ball bead here that has the little beads on the inside of it, and then you could hang a cage bead from it. I mean, the choices, you got a lot of options here for sure. All right, so let's take a look at the earring and then we're going to talk technique. So for this project, I used some of, let's see, where did it go? I used some of the silver, black, and green, and I used 20 gauge wire for this. And we are going to use the stepped bell making pliers. I'm going to show you how to create this little wire section here. Let me just show it to you so you can see it. So we're going to create this wire section, and then we're going to attach it with some wire wrapping to our bead. And then we're going to do a little herringbone wire wrapping on our bead that we can hang from the bottom. There is herringbone happening here as well, but it is the simplest form of the herringbone, so don't get discouraged, okay? I promise everybody watching tonight can accomplish this. You guys can do this project. I know it might look a little intimidating, but I promise you can do this. Okay, so to get started, what we want to do is we want to take a large amount of our wire, okay? And the equation for this, if you even want to call it that, because it's not exact, but when you're using 20 gauge wire and you're making this kind of coil, 1 inch of wire is 1 foot of wire, right? We want about 3 inches of this. Actually, let me give you an exact measurement because I think it's like 2 3/4. It's pretty close to 3. We're right at 2 3/4, almost 3 inches of this. So you're going to need to pull about 36 inches of your wire. I know that seems like a lot, but it does take a lot. There's a lot of little coils there. But I think it's worth it. I think the payoff is worth it because there's a lot of different things you can do with this look, right? There are so many different options here, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. But let's go ahead and grab our wire. So I do want to pull out about 36 inches of the wire. I want to be sure that I have plenty to work with. This is definitely not a project where you can add later. So always cut more when you're creating this look, okay? Okay, now to create this wired coil, you'll notice that it's kind of like a two-step, right? There's a step and a step up, step, step up, step, step up. And it's really not nearly as complicated at first glance when you realize that we're just kind of going back and forth, back and forth. And all we're doing is just coiling the wire, right? We're just coiling the wire. So I'm using the stepped bell making pliers because this is my favorite. Love it, love it. This is my top handheld tool, right? Because like the 3D bracelet jig and the tying station are not necessarily handheld. So this is definitely, when it comes to like pliers, this is my favorite pair of pliers ever. And I'm going to be using the smallest portion of the tool to create our little coils. However, I want you to keep in mind that you can make your coils whatever size you want them to be. And that's another reason why this is a really cool tool to use, because you have 6 different choices when it comes to what size you want these coils to be. Erica says, can you work off the spool? You can. However, the only reason that I don't with this project is because the coil does tend to add some weight to the end, and sometimes it pulls the coils while it's kind of like hanging in space, and some of the coils will end up being smaller than the others. So you can just keep in mind that your coils may not be consistent because gravity is definitely going to come into play. I know this doesn't feel heavy when you've got it in your hand, but it is going to be pulling at the wire as you're working. Okay, so to get started, what we're going to do is we're going to just take that wire and we are going to grab it between the top portion of our pliers here. So it's between the two smallest spaces. We're going to use the smaller one to create our coil. Okay, and to create the coil, I'm going to be working towards my hand. Okay, and that's really, really important. Don't do your coils from the wire outwards. You want to start with the tip of the wire and work inwards. So this is what I mean. Okay, I'm going to hold on to the wire. I'm going to turn that first loop. Okay, that's going to be coil number 1. Coil number 2 needs to go on the inside of that, so towards my hands, right? There's coil number 2. Okay, just coil around a few times. That first one kind of overlapped a little bit. That's okay. We're going to cut those off, right? We don't need the first ones. They're always a little wonky to get started, but this is just a good way to kind of get that feeling of opening and closing the pliers, turning your hand. Like that's all there is to it when it comes to coiling the wire, right? You coil the wire around and around on the pliers just by rotating the pliers back and forth like this, right? Opening and closing. And that's going to work up a coil. And obviously this coil is a lot bigger than what we need. But like I said, just to get that feeling started, we'll trim this off. We don't need this. We can cut this off later. But just, just to kind of get that feeling going. That's all there is to it, is just opening, closing, pulling the wire. Open, close, pull the wire. And you notice how my hand is rocking as I do that, okay? So just get in the groove of that. Now we want to actually begin our pattern. And our pattern is 3 coils and then step up, okay? So let me show you what I mean. The next place I want to put my tool, okay, I've taken it out of all of the coils. Now I want to place it directly underneath. See how it's just sitting right underneath the coils, and close again, right? Close so that the wire is between the barrel of the pliers. Our coil is sitting on top, okay? And I'm going to coil once, twice, and 3 times around, okay? When you get 3 times around, you want to stop. Okay, take this off of the pliers and kind of give it a look. Let me trim this off so that you guys don't get super confused here, because I don't want you to think that you need all of these in the beginning. And I realize that somebody might just pop in and be like, why are all those coils at the beginning? So let me trim off here. Make a little bit more sense. I'm going to turn this around so I can get in there with my cutter tool. Okay. So ideally, we were just kind of practicing there in the beginning, but ideally this is what you're going to have, okay, when you get started. And I actually cut 1 too many off of that one. That's okay. So you're going to have 3 and then 3. Okay, now we started here. We stepped up. Now we need to come back down. And it's really easy to come back down. Take it off of the pliers and then put it back on the pliers. Those first coils that you made that are over here on the end will slide right back on to the pliers, right? Your step up coils are up here. Your first coils are on the actual tool, and we're going to coil again. 1 all the way around, 2 all the way around, and then 3 all the way around. And when we get 3, we want to stop, right? So when we slide off, there's our pattern, right? We're just kind of doing a little zigzag, kind of like a zipper, if you will. Now, Let me tell you the trick to this, because some people are going to put this onto their pliers and they're going to start this and they're going to realize very quickly something that happens that you don't want. And I'm going to use my chain nose pliers here to kind of point this out, okay? So the goal is that every time you're ready to do a new set of coils, you want to be able to put the second to last set of coils back onto the tool, right? That's going to help with your placement. So I'm ready to do another set of coils right here in this area, but to get them placed, I want to put them back in the bottom coils over here. So not the last ones that we did, but the ones before the last ones, right? Well, one of the things that happens if you're not really careful is this coil on this side right here, it'll get closed up too small to be able to fit your pliers in there again. And if that happens, there are a couple of things that you can do. You can just hold your pliers in place without actually putting them back in there, or you can come in with your round nose pliers and stick your round nose pliers in there and kind of wiggle back and forth, and it will open that back up. However, in order to avoid that altogether, it took me a while to figure out how it was that that last coil on the inside was getting pinched smaller, right? Closing itself up. It happens when you are opening and closing the pliers. So you want to be careful and go slow, okay? We're going to start a coil and I'm going to show you what I mean, okay? So I'm going to roll the wire around, and I've rolled to the point where now I need to open the pliers and pick them back up again, right? I want to stay really far away from the coils that are already made, because just the slightest nudge of the tool up against those pliers is what kind of pinches that last coil closed, okay? So as you're opening and closing, be sure that you are giving, see how much clearance I'm giving as I'm rolling and opening? You want to give that much clearance. And I know that seems like an excessive amount of opening for that, but if you hit this little coil, it will close up and you'll never get your pliers back in there, okay? Trust me, it took me forever to figure out, but that is exactly what happens. So go slow with this. I thought, oh yeah, I can do this no problem. I can work this up. I can do 3 inches of this really quickly. And you can after you practice. But in the beginning, don't speed through this, because you absolutely will inadvertently hit the coils that you just created and close them up without even realizing what you're doing, okay? So taking it off of the tool, you can see we've got 4. We've got our down, up, down, up. We're ready for the down again. And so for the down coils, I'm going to take the small portion of the pliers and slip it back in to not the last coil that we made, because that one's on the top, but the one before the last one. So it's on the down, okay? Coil around, go slow. Okay. And when you get to 3, slide it off. You can double check your work, right? Put it back on the pliers. And 3, be careful when you're rolling the pliers around. Don't want to knock the coils that you've already created. Okay, and I'm also kind of straightening the wire as I go, warming it up with my fingers and pulling it nice and straight. The straighter the wire is, the easier this is going to be. And once you get the hang of it, the quicker you're going to be able to work it up, because you don't have to, you don't have to continue straightening your wire out. Okay, so I did the up, now I'm ready for the down. Inserting the pliers into the second to last group of coils there, and you can see just what I mean. So back in those coils here on the bottom, okay, and roll. Okay, out. And then back in. You do have to wiggle a little bit, and that's okay, right? But you don't want to struggle with it. That's why you want to be sure you're not accidentally hitting those coils, because if you do, you're going to fight every single time to try to put the pliers back in to the coils, right? So just go slow. And this is super, super easy. Once you kind of get that aha moment, then it really is just a matter of repeating over and over and over again. And you just make this really cool kind of zipper pattern, right? So we're going to keep going a little bit. I don't know that I'll do all of it because I already have a piece that's already ready to go, but we'll do several more of these just so that you guys can kind of see that repetitive motion, because there's nothing wrong with a little bit of practice and watching. Watching can be practice too, right? Okay. Take it out of one, slide it into the other. And again, you can do this with any wire. Number one, it doesn't just have to be 20 gauge wire. You can use any gauge that you want. I'm using the 20 for this, but you can do this with 22, you can do it with 18, and you can do this with any of the spaces on your stepped bell making pliers, okay? So you're not just limited to these little tiny ones. You can make coils of any size. Not only can you make coils of any size, but you can actually mix the sizes up, which is a really interesting look. The only problem with mixing them up is that it's a little bit different when you go to put the pliers back in to your previous coils. So if your coils on the bottom are really big coils, it just takes a little extra care. You just go a little bit slower, but you absolutely can change up the sizes here. It doesn't always have to be just the same consistent size every single time, right? Okay. So just coiling around, and it looks good with wire that's even not the multicolor wire, but I feel like this is just a really fun way to show off the beautiful transitions in this multicolor wire. I feel like the multicolor wire just really, in any kind of coil form, it just really shows off that gorgeous combination. And you can see this very easily. You can use your silver with this. You can use your hematite colors with this. You could even use your brass and gold, because everything goes with green, right? Green is one of those colors that it totally should be a neutral, right? I know that it's not, and I know that there are some artists out there that would argue with me that I should never say something like that, but I really do feel like certain shades of green, right, definitely kind of qualify for that neutral kind of recognition, because it's one of those that goes with just about everything. Okay, so I'm just working up the pattern here, and you can see it's going by pretty quickly, but I am going slow. And if this is your first time really trying to create this little pattern, definitely go slow. Definitely give yourself a lot of patience with this if you're just getting started. And I feel like probably the biggest trick to this is that your coils are always coming back towards your hand, not to the outside of the tool. If they go to the outside of the tool, you're really going to struggle with trying to get your pliers back in place. Okay, so I've worked up a bit here. I'm not going to do the whole thing because I don't know, we're pretty close. Let's just keep going. Might as well. There's no rush. But I do want to talk to you before we put the earring together about some options that you've got with this, because this little technique, you can really do a lot with this. So the spaces in between, I'll just kind of talk about one as I'm going here. The spaces in between the coils is a great place to add really small beads. So you have the opportunity to string 2 strands, right? You can use small sections of this as a component in pieces, or you could do 2 strands and run your bead stringing wire and a bead stringing wire through the coil, and then a bead in the open space. And it doesn't have to just be bead stringing wire. You can run leather cord through this with no beads. It looks really cool. You can thread this entire thing onto memory wire. Looks really cool. So the possibilities with just this simple little wire technique of coiling can look so different depending on how you use it in your jewelry making, right? Just small little inch sections of this to break up some beads in your design looks really cool. I'll show you a couple of other things here as we get a little bit closer to the end. I think we only need a few more and we should be ready to go. So for the earring in particular, you are going to need about 3 inches to 2 3/4. That is, it needs one more, and we're going to call that one done. Okay. Okay, so I have enough for our earring, and I'm just going to trim off right there. Okay, and before we move on, let's talk about, other than the things that I have already mentioned. So not only can you thread it this direction in your piece, but you can also thread it this direction long ways, run some head pins, maybe pop some beads in between there, and this makes a really cool drop for an earring. Hang a bead from the bottom of it. Like, can you imagine? Hold on, let's see. That wire section with a bead at the bottom. Super cool. So this little guy, there's a lot of different things he can do, even though he, you know, he's just a coil. He's just a coil. But I mean, really, it's a cool thing that you can really kind of incorporate in a lot of different ways. And this isn't the only thing you can do with this exact technique. So we are going to string it on the outside of a bead, right? And kind of turn it into an outer kind of element. But I want to show you. So this one is just 2, right? An up and down, which is cool. Adjust my light just a little bit. So up and down is what we just did, but look at this one. Oh, he's not just a coil. I know, right? So this one is the exact same technique, but instead of it being down and up, it's 3, right? 3 one direction, 3 the other direction, 3 and 3. So I stepped up and just added an extra step in this. And once you go from here with the 2, and then you play around with 3, you can make as many as you want, which is really, really cool. Now keep in mind, it is springy because it is a coil, so it's not super stiff. You definitely want to run something inside it to give it a nice structure. But if you've got 3, a group of 3 like this, now you can run straight through the center with your bead stringing material or whatever, and then use these outer little coils to attach dangles if you wanted to, or you could do 3 whole strands of something if you wanted to. So the more coils you add to it, obviously the bigger the little zipper shape is going to be, but then it also leads you to larger area to add bigger beads. So with this guy, we're kind of limited to either seed beads or 2 to 3 millimeter beads in between. But this guy, you've got the space in between in that middle row where you can do a 3, right? Or you can do a seed bead or 3 millimeter beads, 2 or 3 millimeter beads. But then all of a sudden you've got this bigger space here. And now we're talking about adding a 4mm bead. Bump this up again and do one more row of coils, and you've got room for a 5 or 6mm bead. So you really can kind of, you know, get crazy with this, just playing around with the wire. She says, Sara Ellis, when you cut off your end, are you ending like a zipper, one side up and the other side down? That's a really good question, and it really kind of depends on what you're going to do with it. So for our earring, I want them both to end on a down, if that makes any sense. So they're both, yeah, it does make sense. So they're both on the same side, but it depends. It really depends on how you want it to look. I wanted my ends to match here, so that's why I did it that way. But if you wanted it to be asymmetrical, you could end one on the top and the other on the bottom. It's really just kind of up to you. Just play around with it and see what you think about it. I just liked it to be kind of even, but that's up to you. So another thing you can do with the one that is like this guy is also just like this, and I did it just for fun because I wanted to show you what the extra little step up looks like around another Jesse James bead, because I was just like kind of blown away. Look at that. It's like a starburst. It's so cool. So this is the 2 in the green that we're going to do, right? This is the 3 around a beautiful Chi-Chi glass bead, one of the big boys. So stinking pretty and so simple, right? And all I have for structure with this one is just the wire running around that inside. And that's exactly what we're going to do with this guy. But I just wanted you guys to see what's possible, because this looks crazy intense, and it's not. It's not. Start with a 2. You can do this. And then step up to this. You will be amazed at the results and the cool things you can do. And then you have all of these little places here where you can run beads between there, or you can add jump rings, which is what we're going to do, and just add another bead to it. So it's a lot of fun. I feel like the multicolor wire makes it even more fun. You know, I love the colors, and then to mix in your favorite Jesse James beads, it's just like, it's art kind of waiting to happen, right? Okay, so let's put the earring together. I've kind of carried on and on about the wire, but the beads are what make this like a real piece, right? A showpiece. Otherwise, you just have a piece of wire in cool colors. Okay, that's great, but let's like build something with this, right? All right, so I'm going to use some more of the multicolored wire, and this time I want, I don't know, about 18 inches. 20 inches. It doesn't take a whole lot to do this part, but again, you definitely want to be sure that you've got plenty to work with. It's better to have enough than to not. All right, so we're going to start this just like we would any wrapped loop, okay? Except that we want to come down on the wire a little bit more than what we would normally do. So I'm going to come down about 3 inches on that wire with my chain nose pliers, and just going to give it a good bend. And now I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers, and we're just going to follow the same steps that we always do. We're going to go up and over, roll the pliers out of the way, take the wire on over. Now, when we do our wire wrapping, we want to wrap around about 8 or 9 times, okay? So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, whoops, mine are kind of overlapping, 7, 8, about 9. That'll do, okay? And again, I'm using 20 for this, all the same gauge, okay? Just using the same 20 gauge wire. I'm going to trim off the tail, okay? Now I'm going to thread on this beautiful bead, and it's going to sit right up against the wire wraps that we made, okay? And the wire is coming out of the bottom. All right, now we're going to do a little bit of herringbone here with just one loop, which we normally do herringbone where there are loops on either side. But this is a really good beginner place for herringbone, okay, if you've never done herringbone wire wrapping before. So where the wire is exiting the bead, I just want to give it a good bend just over to one side, okay. That is just going to keep my bead in place, right? And now I want to take that wire and I'm going up the side of the bead, and I'm just making sure that the wire is sitting right up against the surface of the bead, and we're coming up here to the wire wraps. I've turned mine upside down, but it's the same thing either direction, right? Okay. I've come up to the wire wraps, and my wire is running in front of those wire wraps, which is exactly what we want. And now I want to take the wire and wrap it around the wire wraps and back out the front, okay? Now I'm going to guide the wire down the side of the bead on the other side, right? And then I'm going to go behind the wire wrap that's already there on one side and all the way up. So this time I went all the way around, and then to the front of the wire wraps, wrap around and back out to the front. So we're doing our herringbone wire wrapping, but we're going all the way around our bead instead of wrapping around wire wraps that would be here at the bottom if we had another wrapped loop. And it's always going to be uneven. So we've got 2 wraps on this side, but we only have 1 on this side. It's always going to be that way when you do herringbone wrap without 2 loops, okay? All right, so I'm going to do it again. I'm going behind the wrap I just made and just guiding that wire all the way around the bead, behind all those wire wraps, back up here to the top where the wire wraps are, wrap to the front, around to the back, and back out the front, okay? Now we're going to add. That's all we're going to do. We just made pretty much just 3 passes. So we've got 2 wraps on one side and 3 wraps on the other side, and that's it for going around without anything else. Now we're going to add our coils to this. So I'm going to thread my coils, and I'm going to start on a bottom, right? And I'm going to go all the way down the bottom row. And I'm starting on the bottom because it's the one that's out, right? Remember that conversation we had about how to, if you want to stop on the top or stop on the bottom. We're going to thread on the bottom, okay? Slide that all the way up to your wire wrap, okay? Now, we want to very gently guide all the way around, and it's springy, okay? So it's going to want to fight against you. It's not terrible, but it does want to kind of push back on you because it is springy, okay? We're going to bring that wire all the way around the bead, just like if it were plain and there wasn't anything on it. Back up to the wire wraps, and notice my wire is going in the front of the wire wraps. And now I'm going to wire wrap around the wire wraps, and I'm going to wire wrap around the wire wraps a couple of times now because we're done, right? And now we have our fun little coil sitting on the outside of our bead. Super, super pretty, and it's in place now. Once you get that wire wrap on there, it's not going to fight back against you anymore. It is going to sit in place exactly where you want it to be, okay? Come to the back, trim off, and the top part of our earring is complete. Now, you can add an ear wire to this and be completely done with it, but I love an extra dangle, so we are going to do an extra dangle, and we're going to do another little herringbone wire wrap, right? But if you don't want earrings out of these, this would make a gorgeous pendant as well. And if you didn't want to add another bead, another one of your Jesse James beads tassels on the bottom of this would look amazing. So many different options here, right? I'm just kind of giving you the jumping off point. As always, you can take this wherever you want it to go, right? After you get this part down, you can do anything with this. So let's do our bottom bead with just some quick herringbone, and then we will put our earring together. So again, we're going to need about 20 inches of wire, not a whole lot for this bottom bead because it is a little bit smaller and we're not doing a lot of wraps around. But we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to start on our piece of wire. We're going to come down about 3 inches, okay, with our chain nose pliers. We're going to bend the wire, and then we're going to come in with the round nose pliers, or you can use your stepped bell making pliers, right? Up and over, roll the pliers, take the wire over to the other side. And again, we want to wrap around about 8 times. Okay. Now, the cool thing about herringbone is that if your wire wraps are super messy or they've got big spaces between them, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter because you're going to cover them up with more wire and you'll never ever see them. All right, trimming off the tail, and now we're going to thread on our bead. And again, it's just going to sit right up against the wraps. Okay. And we're going to do this the exact same way, except this time we're just going to stick with the wire, okay? So I'm just bending the wire out this direction, kind of lock that bead in place. It's not going to fall off. Now I'm just going to guide the wire up the side of the bead and then to the front of the wire wraps, okay? Wrap around and then back out the front, okay? And I realize that's upside down, but I always just kind of turn the bead in my hand as I'm working. It's a little bit easier, okay? Now I'm going to guide it down the side of the bead on the other side, okay? Coming around the bottom, and when we get to the bottom, we're going to go behind that first wire wrap, up the side, behind that, and to the front, always to the front of the wire wraps, up around to the back and back out to the front, okay? And we're just going to repeat. We're going to go down the side of the bead, behind the wire wraps that are already there, all the way around, back up to the top, to the front of the wire wraps, wrap around. Okay, let's go one more time. So we're going behind all of our wire wraps, along the edge of the bead, all the way around the bottom, back up the other side, to the front of the wire wraps, and wrap around. All right, and that's pretty much all we've got room for. So we've got 3 on one side and 4 on the other. Okay, and I'm going to actually take my wire, wrap around one more time. And you guys, that was an excessive amount of wire for this. So I really think that you could do this with about 16 inches of wire. Okay, don't go crazy big with this one. You're definitely not going to need nearly as much wire. All right, so there we have our little drop. And this guy, again, would look beautiful all by itself. Add an ear wire to this and ta-da, right? You've got a gorgeous earring, but we're extra. So we want to hang this little guy from our other piece here, right? And so to do that, all I'm going to use is just a jump ring. I'm going to use a 6mm jump ring. If you wanted to wire wrap this directly to the other part, you could, but I feel like sometimes easy is better. When you've spent time doing all of the other wire stuff, it's easier just to open up a jump ring, right? And thread it on. Oh, wait. Did want to mention, just realized it. So our loop is facing us. We need to turn our loop. It needs to be facing to the side. So I just grabbed it with my pliers and just gave it a nice little turn. Since it's that really soft artistic wire, it will turn really, really easy for you. Okay, and then attach it with our jump ring. Close that back. And there you go. Now we're going to add our ear wire to this and we will have a really cool pair of earrings. But if this is not your speed for earrings, right, this would make a gorgeous pendant. Absolutely beautiful pendant. You could do this as your centerpiece, and then you could do smaller, right, with your smaller Jesse James beads, and do some smaller ones to flank it on either side, and kind of have like, could you imagine if we had another one right here, how beautiful that would be? You could put your boho beads in the center of this if you wanted to. You could even put cage beads in the center of this if you wanted to, and really get an amazing show-stopping kind of look. So I promise, give it a little practice. You're going to be amazed at how easy that technique is once you get in the swing of it. And you can literally add that little wire coil to everything. So here are our earrings with our gorgeous beads. And then there was this guy. Don't want to forget about him because I was just like, but he just got finished literally right before I started. And I was like, oh, I have to show this to everybody just because it is so darn cool. This is definitely one I would use as a pendant because it is a little on the big side, but gosh, look at that bead in the middle. And it doesn't take away from the bead. And I think that's the cool part. Like, even though we've got this awesome wire stuff going on, we still can fully appreciate that Jesse James bead in the middle, right? It's not detracting from that gorgeousness at all. All right, so I'm going to turn you guys around. I'm going to try these on for you. Ramona says, easy. She says, I promise, Ramona, I've never steered you wrong. And everything you've ever set your mind to, you have been able to do it. So I know better. Vicky says, show us how to do the 3-wrap. Okay, I'll show you just real quick, okay? Because we can definitely revisit the 3-wrap. It does take a little bit more patience. Let me just cut a little piece here. So the 3-wrap, you're going to start out basically the same way. I'm going to use the bigger side here. So you're going to start out and you're going to do 3 wraps or as many wraps as you want to. I just stick with 3 just because it's just kind of easy, okay? So there are my 3, my first little coil, right? Sherry, I'm using 20 gauge, but this will work with any of the gauges of the multicolor wire. Okay, now I'm going to step down. So I'm going to put the pliers underneath the coils I just made. Okay, close the pliers and wrap around for the 3. Okay. Now, instead of stopping where my wire is here, right, to do down again, I want to stop where my wire is coming here. So when I take it off of the pliers, that's where I've stopped. And then just same thing. I just want to place the pliers underneath and wrap 3 times. Okay. So we've gone up 3. Now we just want to go back down. So there were the 3 up, just creating a little staircase. Now I'm going to put the pliers into that middle row of coils. Okay. Wrap around. Take it off of the pliers. And now this time I want it to go in the bottom. Okay, there's a little bit more space there. Whoops. And it does take a bit more wire. So 1 inch of coils is going to be more than one foot of wire. But that's basically, you're just creating a little stair step, right? So just go slow and pay attention to where you're placing your pliers. I definitely don't recommend going to the 3-step until you master the 2 though, just because it does take a little bit more patience and you do have to go a little bit slower. But it's completely doable. I mean, I wouldn't even consider this an intermediate wire wrap. This is still beginner wire wrapping here because all it is just creating a coil around a mandrel. Everybody can do this. I promise you. Just be patient. Give yourself grace. You totally can do this. Okay. All right. So let me turn you around. Sheesh. If you're still here, I cannot wait to see what you do with this. Sheesh is a Wonder Woman on the wire. I'd love to see what her interpretation of this is going to be and what crazy things she's going to come up with. I want to see what everybody does with this because I know all of you can totally do this. And you guys are going to have the coolest wire wrapped pendants and earrings ever. And everybody's going to have them in different colors because everybody likes a different color selection out of that multicolored wire, right? And everybody's going to use their favorite Jesse James beads, so it's gonna be something special. I can't wait to see. But yeah, so these are large earrings. There's no doubt about that, right? But again, if you don't like big earrings, you can definitely make this smaller. It doesn't have to be nearly as large as these. You can make it smaller with a smaller middle bead, so it doesn't take nearly as much of the coil to go around the outside, right? What else was I going to say? I can't even remember now. I got to thinking about something else. It must have not been that important, but oh, thank you. I'm going to roll back. See that? Maggie says you keep reinventing the wheel, and what a pretty, pretty wheel it is. I appreciate that so much. Marianne says she does gorgeous work. She really does, right? She does. I cannot wait to see what she does with this. I cannot wait to see what you guys do. I know you guys are going to knock this out of the park for sure. So post your pictures, guys. Let us see. I want to see what Jesse James bead are you going to put in the middle of your crazy wire creation, right? What fun design are you going to come up with this? I can't wait. I'm excited. That's the best part of my job, is getting to show you guys something and then watching you do amazing things with it. So, all right, you guys, have a wonderful night. Thanks for watching tonight. I feel like I'm a little off my game. It's so weird to be here on a 7 o'clock time spot on a Thursday, because we're usually together in the mornings. But thanks for joining me tonight. We had fun. I hope you guys liked this project. You can watch it in the replay so that you can see it again and again. If you need to kind of stop and rewind, you definitely can do that. It will come in your newsletter. If you're not signed up for the Jesse James Beads newsletter, please do that so that you can always join us. You'll know when we're going to do fun projects and when our schedule gets a little weird here and there. But next week, you guys, we're back to the same schedule again, and you guys will catch me on Maker Monday at 7 p.m. with another fun project for you guys. Don't forget about your 20% off your multicolor collection, the buy one get one free on the pendants, and let's see, oh, I'm sorry, buy two get one free. That's pretty awesome. And then the free book or educational DVD. There are a lot of great deals. Don't miss out on those, you guys. Don't forget to check the website on a regular basis for all of the new stuff that is always coming to jessijamesbeads.com. And that is it for me, you guys. I will see you guys again next week. Enjoy your weekend, okay? Bye, guys.